wanted to point out Bob there, who's down in the corner. Bob Simpson is actually the author of the paper we're reading today. And
hey, Bob, how you doing?
You're muted, Bob. Wait.
Can't hear you. Check your mute button.
Yeah, you can unmute.
Bottom left.
How's that?
Everybody's muted by default.
Perfect.
Hey, Bob.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'm glad you're here. Bob emailed me after getting one of the papers that one of y'all sent to him, and he wasn't on the list. He's actually been a member of the Research Lodge for a long time. This paper was given in '99. And he said, I recognize some of those names I saw there. And then I happened to pick his paper to read today, so I want to make sure he knew so he could be with us. So I gave him the option to read it. He said he'd rather hear me read it. So, but hopefully he'll answer some questions.
I'm sure you'll do a better job, and I write good. I think I don't read so well. I've had a couple strokes, and
oh my!
So I get emotional over things, and
I hear you.
I appreciate you doing this, and I'm flattered that you selected this to read.
Well, I wanted to pick one that was a ways back. I don't know. I think, well, Rooster, you might have been on the list early on, but I started this email list in 2019, I think.
Yeah.
So I started with number 1. This is like number 20, I think, but I wanted to pick an early one. I've added a whole lot of people to the mailing list in the last 6 months. So a lot of people, I didn't want to read a newer paper that everybody had just read. So I tried to pick one of the earliest ones that was interesting. Some of them are good reads. Like, it's fun to read about like Bob Allen and some of the early members and all the tributes and all that. But it's like, most people don't relate, and some of them don't. I wouldn't read them again. Some of them were events, like the one we just had, the roast, was interesting, but it's not worth me reading to you. So I try to pick one that was old enough most of you all hadn't seen, or at least if you read it over a year ago, maybe you already forgot it. So hopefully it'll be entertaining and not seem like a rerun.
I can remember coming to Virginia Research Lodge way back, probably 1970s, but if you didn't get there early, you couldn't get a seat. It was just jammed.
Wow.
With people.
Well, we wanted to get that way again once COVID finally subsides, hopefully. We had our annual. Go ahead.
I will say this, as someone who works with the Committee on History, Bob Simpson's work is quite prevalent. So he's done some great work.
I don't know how many papers I have of his that I've transcribed. That's the only one that I saw, but I'm sure there's other ones. And he's mentioned by name in another paper. So
he's done some good work for the Grand Lodge.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad you're able to be here.
Yeah, those 2 papers you put out recently. I was Worshipful Master in 1989, and I had Most Worshipful Bill Watkins spoke on a vision, which is, I thought to myself, I went back and read the whole thing again, and he was certainly ahead of his times, because everything he talked about, why Freemasonry is experiencing all these things today. Then Dick Curtis, who was the editor of the Northern Light for the Northern Masonic jurisdiction, he was one of our guest lecturers too.
I really enjoyed that one. It's funny because I get the privilege of reading all of these, long before y'all do, and it's some of them. It seems like it could have been written today. It could have been delivered today. The same problems. The one talking about district deputies and restructuring. And I'm thinking somebody could deliver this week and have the same problems, the same things they identified that could change. And so it just seems like, these are 30-year-old papers, some of them, and some 40 years old now, and they're still relevant. I mean, we don't seem to be resolving these problems. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing because we don't seem to be addressing these issues. But what they thought back then is the idea of a research lodge can delve into these problems. The Grand Lodge used to direct the research lodges, go look into this, give us some specifics on these things, give us some metrics we can use to address these problems for the craft. And we did that at one time, but it just seems like a lot of these issues never seem to get addressed. People bring them up and everyone hears it and agrees, yes, we need to do something. And then nothing changes. So, maybe because this is getting a wider, I'm hoping I'm reaching a wider audience with the emails and putting them on Facebook and all that. Maybe more brothers will tune in. Maybe more brothers will involved and want to change our direction, or at least think more seriously about the craft. Because I think the biggest problem is for many Masons, they go to one lodge. That's the lodge they belong to. That's the lodge they attend. They rarely visit other lodges. They don't read about Mason. Their whole view of Masonry is just my lodge and the 10 guys I see every month, and that's all they know. And if you at least get out and visit other lodges in your district, you're like, oh wow, that lodge does things different than us. Maybe I can learn from that. And hopefully getting these papers out into the wider internet, that it'll help maybe at least prompt a few brothers to think more about Masonry and maybe, reconsider their opinions or say, oh, I never even considered that. So that's the goal. I'd like to welcome everybody coming in. Go ahead, Shelby.
I just want to say that for this unstated meeting, I am here and my unofficial visit as the new master of the George Washington Lodge of Research.
Outstanding.
So I wanted to make sure that I got a chance to be with my brethren here. Thank you for having me.
You're meeting in Fredericksburg?
That is correct.
Yeah.
So we are going to be working on doing a few Zoom meetings as well. We have brothers who haven't been able to participate because they're out of state, and this might be an opportunity to re-engage them. And that's another thing that we're going to try to do.
That's great. Well, by all means, we'll be happy to promote it on our Facebook group. We have over 1,400 members now. I can't count how many are in Virginia. If I try, there's probably at least maybe half are Virginians, and then they're from elsewhere. So we can get some attendance for your meetings. We'd be happy to promote it for you. Anything we do to help the other research lodges.
We'll definitely keep you. We definitely work with you on that.
Yeah, because we all need to work together. There are only 5 of us. So
did you get the new report from Mark Cohn?
When was it? What was it about?
He just sent it today.
Oh, then no.
It's basically the same thing as the COVID-19 drop to 10.
Right.
It's directly from the Grand Master. Basically, it's our position on where the craft will stand on the rules regarding the new changes.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
so you might want to watch out for that.
Yep. Yeah, I'm not actually in the loop per se, Shelby, because I'm the webmaster, but I'm not the secretary or the master. So, but normally Mark includes me because I've been part of the discussions with all these efforts to get more online and stuff, but I don't always get it.
I think you can receive those. All you have to do is get in touch with Kim Martin down at the Grand Lodge office and sign up for announcements, and she'd add your name, I think.
Okay. I do hear the executive orders because I did get that from someone in our lodge, but directly from Mark, I mean, Mark's directly in contact with the masters and all that.
Yeah, it came to me because I was master, so you're right.
Yeah.
It also, I think he's also including he may have included the secretaries as well.
Right.
So I'll forward it to you.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I was saying we had our stated last night at Ocean View. I got to do the installing officer part again. And we had right at 25 people, but they had planned to meet Saturday, today, and confer some apprentice degrees within District 35. And originally, we were planning to do several during the month of December. And then with the new governor's edict restricting us to 10, they managed to schedule one for Saturday because the edict goes into effect from the governor goes into effect Monday. But last night, the Grand Master said, nope, effective immediately. If you're not meeting tonight, you're not meeting. So,
Yeah, that's what happened to us. We were in the middle of a meeting when it happened. We were doing our own installation.
oh my.
So Fredericksburg has new officers, and then we get that message, and we're like, oh, okay, we're the last, and we're the last then.
Yeah, Ocean View too. With last night, that's it. So yeah, it's unfortunate, and I hear a lot of this from my lodge. Like they had, I think, 2 or 3 different candidates that either hadn't even got their EA, and then one guy was waiting on his photograph, and they've scheduled at least 2 other times. They scheduled a 1-day conferral and told the candidate, be ready on this day.
Right.
And that's like a month out. And then 2 days before, something changes and the Grand Master says no. And so they tell them more than once, come on this day to get your degree, and then they don't.
Right.
And that's very unfortunate for the candidate. You've got to be wondering, like, what is wrong with these people? But again, everybody knows, everybody hears from the governor, so they can understand where it's coming from. But still, it's really troubling. We can't bring these people in. I want to thank everybody coming out. We're about 10 minutes in. I don't know how many others to expect. I think I had like 14 signed up to attend. I've got 11 here. I do appreciate y'all coming. I see a few other members of the research lodge here. Bronson is our junior warden, and John London, who is lurking over there on his phone, is our long-term marshal. I think he's been marshal since I joined. So, hey, how you doing, John? I wanted to give a few minutes to get other people in, so I thought we'd all just kind of chit-chat for a bit. I'll start the paper when whenever y'all like, but I wanted to give everybody a chance to say something, say hello, whatever. This is unstated. We don't follow any particular order, and I don't want to monopolize the conversation. And if you let me, I will. So if anybody wants to speak up, you're muted when you join, but if everybody wants to at least just everybody want to chime in, just say hello, say what lodge you're from, and let's go around the room. You want me to call on y'all?
Good afternoon, brethren. Jim Reeves, Right Marshal Master of Lodge Robert Burns Initiated, 1781, here in Edinburgh,
Awesome.
Grand Lodge of Scotland. I'm also past master of Temple Island 8031, which is under the United Grand Lodge of England. Thanks for the invite.
Excellent. Edinburgh, that is great. All right, I'm just going to go around. I don't know what order you see the people. It may be different, so I'm just going to go through my list and just calling you just to say hello. Rooster, go ahead.
Good morning. Glad to see everybody out. It's my anniversary today, so
Happy anniversary. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody. Sorry.
Right.
I can mute, but I can't unmute. That's funny. Okay. I'm sorry about that. It's a occupational hazard with this. Okay. Go ahead, Rooster. Go ahead. You need to back up a little bit. I was muting everybody because of the feedback. You go ahead.
Glad to see everybody this morning. Hope you have a wonderful day and enjoy the meeting.
And you're our senior warden this year, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Both you and Dennis were under the weather, so I'm glad you're both doing better now. I hope Dennis would attend today. He's the worship master. He was at our last Unstated. So, but at least this will be available on YouTube. If anyone misses it, they can catch it there. And Shelby, you already introduced yourself. Go ahead, if you want to say anything, go ahead. You got to unmute.
Hold on. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what, by the way, I don't know why, but I can mute everybody. I can't unmute you.
Understood.
I guess that's a privacy thing. All I can do is send you a little prompt to ask to unmute. I guess that pops up on your screen. I don't know. Go ahead.
I guess we're on a learning curve here as well.
That's right.
But yeah, my name is Shelby Chandler. I served as worshipful master of the Fredericksburg Lodge number 4 in 2011. I served as the charter master of the George Washington Lodge of Research in 2012, and we give specific focus to the fields of masonry that George Washington was around, which is basically colonial masonry, Scottish masonry, and military masonry. So we try to give focus to those fields. I serve at the will and pleasure of the Grand Master on his Committee on History, and also as the District Education Officer for the 8th Masonic District. Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. I am serving as in capacity of, once again, as Worship Master of the George Washington Research Lodge. Because of COVID-19, we had to have a few changes, and I was one of the few people that can rush over and get a certificate right away. So I tested for it, got it in all last second.
Yeah, this came up last night and I didn't have a good answer. I feel bad. To be master of a research lodge, you still have to have a warden certificate. Is that correct?
That is correct. However, the one thing you want to do is you want to premise it as it is for a research lodge. All we have to do as a research lodge is be able to open and close, but the certificate is a full certificate. If you can, the reason why they do that is because one of the other requirements is you must be a past master to be a master of a research lodge in Virginia. So the thing is so long as you can show that you can open and close a Virginia lodge, you can pass this, you can get your certificate. Essentially, just make sure that if you're going to be a master of another lodge, just make sure that you premise that so that they can make sure that you're fully vetted for a regular lodge.
Right. But to get it, it's a full certificate, but to get it, you only have to show you can open and close.
That is correct. Make sure that when you seek one, you premise that it is a research lodge. That way they know.
Okay. All right. And we'll move on to Ray. Ray, if you could unmute and say hello and what lodge you're from.
I'm Ray Camp from Newark Lodge number 83. I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, I got Ray Camp. Hang on a sec. I got Ray Camp and I got Ray. You're on here twice. Just hang on. Let me okay, if I hang up on you, just call back, but stand by. You're on here twice. That's what's happening. Oh, well, dang. Well, I'm going to see what happens. If we lose you, Ray, I'm sorry. All right, you still there? Go ahead and unmute. Need to unmute.
I'm unmuted. I'm Ray
I'm
Camp.
going to guess. How about a sec, Ray? If I could, if I want to guess, you probably had your browser open and the Zoom app open, and they both connected. That's why we're getting feedback from you. But I think we fixed it. You're good to go. Just talking to whichever one is still open.
All right, whatever. Can you hear me?
Yes, go right ahead.
All right, Ray Camp, Newark Lodge number 83 at Newark, New York. Past Master 82 and 92. Past President of Masters and Wardens, 1982.
And are you a member of a research lodge in New York?
No,
You do
I didn't know there was one.
Do that? I don't know if they have them or not. I'm curious now. Newark, New York is not the same as Newark, New Jersey. Please don't be offended that I said it that way.
That's correct.
Where's Newark, New York?
About 35 miles southeast of Rochester, New York.
Okay, so not even close to Jersey. Interesting. Okay. Well, good. I'm glad you're here, brother. Let's go on to Bob. We mentioned Bob a little bit earlier, but I want him to get another chance to say hello and give us a little bit of his history.
Bob Simpson. I'm a past master twice of Widow Sons Lodge in 1973 and 2009, and I was master of Research Lodge in 1989. I was interested listening to Shelby talking about the certificate. I just retired from the Committee on Work for the Grand Lodge after 43 years. And when we issue those certificates for Research Lodge, we were directed to write on the top of the certificate for Research Lodge only. I don't know whether that's a requirement now or not, but you can only use that certificate for opening and closing the lodge for a Research Lodge. You can't use it for a regular craft lodge, but I'm happy to be here. I appreciate all the hard work you're doing. Alan Roberts used to publish books each year. I forget what they were called.
The transactions.
Yeah, transactions. I can't even find them anymore. I used to have them, and he'd include all the papers and so forth during that year, and he published them. I don't know where you got all your information, but you've done a Herculean task getting all these online like you have.
Well, I appreciate that, Bob. Keith Heinerman was very nice in helping me get all of these. I believe I have a copy of every transaction from 80 through 2000. I think it's 2004. I'd have to go look at them all. Robert started doing them. I think I have the earliest transactions, and that's where I started from in this latest round. I was kind of in the middle with the transactions I had myself, and then Keith got me the rest of them. And I know I have the first one, and I know I have the very last one. Unfortunately, we had, let's see, it was Leonard Mitchell Killian who was doing the transactions the first time, I believe. And he passed away, and we didn't get the records from him. And he passed away, and no one went and got his copies, his digital copies, whatever he had. So we lost what he had done, other than the ones that had been printed. And then I can't think of the brother's name. Rooster, you remember the guy? He just passed away a few years ago. He was a past district deputy, I think past district deputy Grand High Priest who was doing the transactions.
It would either be scarce or Burcham, and
no, he lived here. He lived in Chesapeake, I think. I can't think of his
Gurney.
name. Huh?
Gurney.
No, it was like McCarthy or damn. I just saw him a few years ago in South Norfolk, right before he died. He died like 2-3 years ago now. It'll come to me later. I know he was past district deputy, but he was master like 5 years ago. But anyway, he was working. He had managed to get. He was putting the research papers together to do the transactions again, and he passed away. So I was reluctant to even start. It seems to be a curse if you get involved. But I have all of the physical. We have not done transactions since 2000 or 2004. I think was the last one. So we haven't issued any for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, the person who volunteered to do it just started and never got it done. And that's what I've been asking for a while. So once I'm done with the actual transactions I have, I scan them all in and put them online. And John London was actually going to work with Keith and go into the Grand Lodge and getting the older minutes, going back to the very beginning of the Research Lodge, and get a copy of the papers and scanning them and sending to me. And we haven't, I don't know where we are with that, but that's my plan. We're going to have to go back and, for the earliest ones, go to Grand Lodge records, and the papers are submitted with the minutes, and we have to scan those. And then newer ones we'll have recent minutes. Keith will have them, and we'll have to scan those and get them online. So what I'm working on right now is the easiest part. And Keith also gave me a copy of a number of papers that hadn't been put in transactions, but he had a paper copy that he provided to me. And I've gone through all those, and I'm working through the books right now. So I have enough to keep me going for a few months, and then we'll have to try harder to get the rest of them. They're there, but it's more of an effort to get them together. But I want to get them all online. and I plan to do that by the end of 2021. Get every single one of them, even if I don't email them out by then. I want all of them brought in, and I have a digital copy. I want to get a buffer ahead of me, so every week all I do is just grab one and send it. Because right now it's like I need to finish reading the book, scan all of those, hurry up, read them all, proof them, clean them up, and then send one out. And I want to have a nice buffer so it's not an effort every week. If I don't feel like working on it that week, I just grab the next one and send it because that's quick. The part is scanning them and all like that. But I'm enjoying doing it. It's nice to read all of them and to read all the other things in the transactions. We don't publish all of those, but Alan Roberts, I butchered his name earlier. Alan did a good effort of, he had a little intro, a synopsis of the year at the beginning of each transaction and what went on. And it's interesting to read all that stuff and go back and history.
Let me make a note to I think there was a Scottish brother on here. I'm also an honorary member of Old Aberdeen Lodge in Aberdeen, Scotland. I've been there several times. Wasn't there a Scottish brother on here?
Aye.
Yeah, there he is.
Yeah, from Edinburgh. Yeah, Old Aberdeen is that's a low number if I remember correctly.
I don't have it right in front of me. Do you know Brian Dempster by any?
Brian Dempster. Don't recall the name.
He's a good friend. He lives in Aberdeen. He's the
Right.
past master of that lodge.
Trouble is, my book has them all in number, and
Is that Aberdeen number one?
Right?
Is that Aberdeen Lodge number one?
No,
No, not number one.
it's,
Okay.
it's old
Number
Aberdeen.
one's Edinburgh St Mary's.
Okay.
It's old Aberdeen.
Old Aberdeen. Okay, got it.
By the way, Rooster, it was Jerry Walters. He's the fellow I was thinking of.
It's not Lodge of Aberdeen, Aberdeen City, is it?
I wanted to say 67, but
164?
164. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You knew it was 6 something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Old Aberdeen 164. When you
Yeah,
said
Lodge Old Aberdeen.
I
Yeah.
knew what to look for.
Great.
Yeah, Brian Dempster's the secretary.
Yeah.
Aye.
He was here to visit me last year. We visit back and forth. He's a fine man and Mason.
Aye. Be nice for you to come back again when all this is over.
Yeah, it's a mess.
Yeah, unfortunately, we haven't met since March. And we won't know until mid-January if and when we're going to be able to meet again. So 1781 being a summer lodge, we lost out the whole season this year.
Yeah, we hadn't met since March, and we just started again in Virginia here in August or September. We're allowed to start meeting again.
Yeah.
I think it was. Okay. I want to introduce. I'm going to jump ahead to our newest attendee. I'm sorry. Okay. I want to welcome Brother Plamen Mativ down at the bottom. I'm butchering your name. I'm sorry. If you want to unmute and go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm here.
And you are? Introduce yourself, brother.
Okay. Well, my name is Plamen Matev. I'm from Bulgaria. I am immediate past Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Ancient Free and Accepted Masons of Bulgaria. The invitation, I received invitation from Brian, seems to be, on his site, and that's why I'm here.
Oh, you're very welcome here. What we call our Grand Masters most worshipful. What's the correct title for a Grand Master in Bulgaria?
Most worshipful.
And are you still most worshipful once you're out of office?
I'm running, let's say, back office, because the moment I'm chairman of the international
Well, no,
relations.
I'm saying once you're a Grand Master, as a past, are you still called most worshipful?
I was in the past Grandmaster.
Yeah.
In immediate past Grandmaster.
Right. Well, because, for example, in Virginia, once you're a master, you're worshipful for life. And once
Yes.
you're a district deputy, you're right worshipful for life. And Grandmaster, most worshipful. Some jurisdictions, well, for example, I think like Royal Arch, you're most excellent while you're Grand High Priest, and then you're right excellent. Unless I've got that wrong. There's at least one Masonic group I know of where you do not retain the title if you're not the current holder.
Well, we still have no Royal Arch in Bulgaria.
Okay.
And we are following strictly the same line. If you're a one-time Grandmaster, you're a Grandmaster forever.
Okay.
Never
Very good.
just past or...
Okay. Well, I appreciate you being here.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. Brother George, please introduce yourself.
Hello. My name is George Patterson. I'm the Worshipful Senior Warden for Lodge St. James BURA number 424. That lodge is based in Hawick in the Scottish borders. And the reason I'm here is I just like to try and find out as much as I can about all things Freemasons.
Very good. I'm glad you're here. I do believe we have more non-Virginians than Virginians. I'll put it that way. That's great that you're all here. Robert, go ahead and introduce yourself. Nope, still muted. Still muted. There you go. You're still muted, Robert.
Bottom left.
There you go.
Okay, I thought I unmuted myself.
Start again, please.
So, past master at Winchester Hiram, past master at Treadwell, now current master at Treadwell again. And I'm the junior warden at the Research Lodge. And I feel like a newbie compared to listening to all of you guys. Trying to learn as much as I can about Masonry because it's always been an interest there. And my mother keeps telling me the only Mason that she knows of that was related. I'm related to George Washington, but I said, how? Tell me how I'm related to him, because she keeps telling me that, but she won't show me the evidence.
Well, maybe Shelby can help you with that.
Yeah, maybe.
Wow.
When do they meet? When do you guys meet at George Washington Research?
You're muted, Shelby.
We meet quarterly on December, March, June, and August. We were trying to premise it on the times when he was initiated, pass, and raise, but it just didn't work out that well. And quarterly seemed to be more efficient, and the first Saturday of the month seemed to just work out better. So
you just met.
Any research there on Washington, if you are related to him, it'll probably be through one of his brothers, or that's something you might want to get a DNA, like $99, get a DNA thing, and they'll tell you everything about yourself.
Okay.
Yep. All right, Brother Brian, please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Brian Smith. I'm the Secretary of Essa Lodge number 6278 in the province of Cornwall under United Grand Lodge of England. And I guess I'm about as far away from the Scottish crowd as I possibly could be. I edit or operate a couple of chat rooms, which is where some of these people have heard about this meeting. As I said before, by all means, please feel free to publish any of your stuff in our chat rooms. And a little plug, if anyone wants to join them, please let me know. I can be delighted to add you to them. We do Zoom meetings from all around the world, so you can spend every day in a Zoom meeting if you want.
That's great. I made an effort a few months back when COVID was really, all the lodges were closed and everything. And I tried to list the Zoom meetings because I'd see them on Facebook and then forget. And so I've been trying to list them on the Research Lodge Facebook group, so at least people can have one place to go and find a Zoom meeting. We do have, if you've been to, I think most of y'all have probably been to the Facebook page, groups, you can attach a topic. And if you go to the page, I don't know how well it works on phones and iPads and all, but from your browser, you can go pick a topic and say, just show me posted or tag. So like all of our research papers are tagged Spreading the Light. All of the lodge ones, we went through all of the lodges in the state this past year, and that's under Lodge A. And then I have a Zoom category. I think I have an announcements category too. But there's a Zoom category, so anything related to Zoom meetings, you can go there. So if you know of a Zoom meeting, please go to the Research Lodge and just post a link to it, and then mark it as Zoom. And I wanted to try to make that a clearinghouse, because there are plenty of times when I'm just sitting there, it's like, yeah, I heard about a Zoom meeting this week. When is it? And then I got to go remember what group I saw it and dig it out. So I wanted to find one central place to make that available, but I haven't kept it up. So
that's basically what we have. It's a clearinghouse for Zoom meetings.
Excellent.
We have two groups in effect. We have a Facebook page, which is the clearinghouse, and we have a Zoom chat group, which is a 24-hour group. It is 24 hours. We got Masons from all around the world, from Australia to sort of Bulgaria to Zimbabwe, and they're talking 24 hours a day. So
wow.
You're in the group, I believe, so I would guess you probably muted yourself because of all the bleeping. I can guarantee to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
I might have. I remember someone added me to a group, and I'm like, what is all of this? Yeah. Okay. I'll go back and check.
I would like to be added to that group, by the way.
Okay. I'll put a link in the chat for you, and if you want to copy that link and follow it,
that'd be great.
I'll get you in.
If you could add it to our Facebook group for the Research Lodge, I would love it. I'd love to promote you all. Any of you all, if you want to promote anything Masonic, by all means, please post. We need more content. I mean, you may have noticed I'm the kind of person, if you let me talk, I'll talk. If you let me post, I will post. I'm good at filling content, but I really want to get other brothers contributing, especially on our Facebook page. I don't want to be the only one putting anything out there. So, it's a chance for everyone to come and put something in there so I can learn stuff too. But I encourage anyone to post on our Facebook group about anything Masonic related. Brother London, I'm sorry. Someone spoke up.
Perhaps it would be an idea if you were to post your Facebook posts in the chat as well, so that, again, anyone who hasn't got it would have a copy of it.
Okay, yes. Brother John London, if you want to
sure.
Introduce yourself.
John London. I'm a member of Manchester 14, Possum Lodge, Marshal of Research 1777, and District Deputy Grand High Priest of District 4. Apologies for being late. The Zoom crashed on me when I tried to use it for the audio and video stuff directly. For reference on some of the stuff that's come up, Grand High Priest stays most excellent always.
Okay.
But a High Priest retires the most excellent.
That's what it is. Okay.
And he becomes an excellent after he gets out of there.
Okay, thank you. I knew there was something.
Oh yeah, District Deputy stays right.
Yep. Hey, well, right. Whether you're right or not is a matter of debate, but okay. But I had a running gag. There's we spoke of district deputies. There was a paper earlier about district deputies and the valid complaint that some people end up being a district deputy just through no fault of their own, I guess. And I came up with the term. I came up with the term left worshipful, because you got to be district deputy because there's no one left in your lodge who wanted the job.
Oh, yeah.
We can make fun of each other. It's okay.
Yeah. You also mentioned the scans.
Yes,
I found them again. I've gone through several computers.
I understand.
And I've got them, and I need to clean them up a bit. It turns out the scanner wasn't working well at the beginning, but I can get them to you.
Okay.
So that's on my to-do list again.
Okay.
Thanks for the prompt.
And so you have them as like JPEGs
Actually, I think I have them in ping.
in pink?
But,
Okay. I'd like them
yeah.
as is, like just as images, because I run them through. There's an online service I use. It's free, but I like having the original graphic so I can read it to do the editing
Sure.
myself. So yeah,
Okay.
just get me the pings if you can. Earliest first, because when I finish the transactions, I want to go back to the very first papers and march forward from there, and then start on the newer ones. But I don't know. I may get them all scanned and then go find the newest ones and get them out there. And I don't know. I may jump around a bit. I don't know. It's kind of up to me. It's whatever order I want to do them in. But I wanted to get
Well, the ones
some of
I
the
have.
early ones.
The ones I have are the ones that were associated with the minutes.
Okay, very good.
So, and I've got a completely unintelligible note at the bottom of what I'm taking notes on. Anyway, I'm enjoying this, listening to this international conference.
Yeah, I'm quite surprised. I only had like 2 people who signed up and said they were going, and like 20 some were interested. So I never know until I actually open up the Zoom meeting how many to expect. So if I was going to nag any of you all, I would just ask that you sign up for the event and say you're going. Even if you don't show up, sign up that you're going if you're planning to attend, because I truly don't know how many I'll get here until we actually start. But I'm always grateful for everyone who have. We have 11, so I think that's pretty good for like a week's notice. I do intend to do these my goal was to start doing them every Saturday, and I've fallen off. So I will try and do them more regularly, but I think Saturday at 10 seems to work. And for our brothers on the continent, it seems this works for y'all because it's the afternoon for y'all, right? So it seems like 10 in the morning, that's when our normal meeting time is. So this seems like a good time for everyone. No one's demanded we meet on like a Wednesday or a Tuesday or something. So it seems like Saturday morning is a good pick. So I'm going to try and do them as often as I can every week if I can help it. And if any of y'all are interested in doing a paper, just message me. Just contact me and let me know you'd be interested in giving a talk, because I'm more than happy to have somebody else be the presenter, believe me. But if no one else will, I will. So that's a threat. If you don't want me talking all the time, why don't you step up and volunteer to talk? Any brother have anything else?
10, suppose.
I'm sorry? Go ahead.
Next Saturday at 10, for what it's worth, is going to be a research chapter down there in Chesapeake. I'm not sure exactly how they're going to be working that.
Okay. I'll check into that.
I haven't gotten a notice on how they're going to handle it.
Okay. Yeah.
Especially now that they're going to the 10.
Right. Hopefully they'll start doing Zooms. But
well, we've got a mandate to go ahead and start doing hybrids if we can anyway. So even if they're meeting physically, there should be a Zoom meeting associated with it.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. That would be cool to actually have some of you meeting in person and everybody. That'd be kind of neat, because then we at least see a lodge room. Even if most of us haven't been in one, we see what they look like again.
Yes. You won't be seeing the opening or closing, but it should be most of the rest of it.
Oh, wow. So they'll actually open it like a regular meeting and then open it up for the content to the internet. And that's cool. I like that idea.
Actually, Petersburg has been doing it for several months now.
Okay.
And that seems to be working very, very well.
Good. I really like that idea.
Commandery tried a variant of it this last time, Richmond number 2. And I'm hoping that will wind up being something of a standard.
I really like that idea. Well, the trouble with Research Lodge is I'm sorry, go ahead.
Commandery isn't meeting physically at all at this point. So I didn't want to. Yeah.
Right. Well, the trouble, like the research chapter, most of us, I mean, I haven't been in a while, but most of us live in Hampton Roads, so that's doable. The trouble with Research Lodge, of course, is it's in Richmond. Very few of us live in Richmond. And I don't know if Dennis and Rooster and the other guys would be willing to drive to have a meeting where there's only going to be like 5 people present. But maybe you all would. But that's an interesting idea to do a totally virtual
or more than 10.
Hybrid. Right. Well, I mean, I've been to some Research Lodge meetings where we only had 10, so that's actually not as big a problem. But I don't know. I don't know what I would. Are either of you guys interested in maybe next year? Rooster, you're muted. You're muted, Rooster.
Yeah.
Would you be interested in doing that? Where do you live, by the way?
I live in North Tazewell, Southwest Virginia.
Oh, okay. So you're ways away.
Yeah.
Would you be open to doing something like that? Opening the Research Lodge with just 10 members or less and then hosting it online?
I have no idea how to do this stuff.
Right. Okay.
It's new to me.
Well, I mean, if we physically met, you could actually do petitions and do legitimate business. We can only do so much online. Well, for now, we'll meet online then, and I'm open to supporting whatever you all want to do going forward.
Yeah.
Can I say something to that real quick?
Go ahead.
Just to let you know, and I know that you, Chris, understand this pretty well. One of the problems with Zoom is that anything that we do on online is digital, which means it's recorded somewhere.
Yes.
One of the advantages that the Commandery had is they just didn't put anything secret or sacred on there. They do a short form, and that's how they're able to get around that. We have a more difficult problem in the Blue Lodge in being able to do such. One of the ideas that's been, I know a lot of people are trying to think outside the box on how to recover with the limitations. One, Brother Chris Tripp, Worshipful Brother Chris Tripp, came up with an idea that that he's going to see about. Maybe I should let him do it, but basically I'm thinking about doing the same thing with the George Washington Lodge of Research, and that is talk with the Grand Lodge about the possibility of opening up a tiled lodge, going to refreshment, have a Zoom meeting where you can discuss with the brethren any business, and then afterwards, after you close off the Zoom meetings, you go back to labor and you meet the will of the brethren on whatever they would have voted on, since only 10 people can show up.
Yeah.
And then, so basically you're doing everything under refreshment, and you go back to labor later. And you do the business. And basically, whatever the consensus was on the Zoom meeting, that's what's done by the 10 who's physically there.
That's an interesting idea. Well, I mean, to put it in terms non-technical people can relate to, if we had a lodge meeting, say we had a guest speaker who was not a Mason, you'd go to refreshment, you go downstairs where you have ladies present, or you bring everyone in the room. For example, when you have a youth night. So when you're at refreshment, you can have anybody in the world there. Thus, you can literally put that online and then come back to labor to close.
And hold is basically what you're doing.
Yeah. So that would be in compliance with the law then. You're right. We couldn't just fire up a meeting, even if there's no ritual going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, you would. I mean, inevitably, if we were filming a lodge meeting, someone would stand up and give the due guard or something else. So
that's the problem that we have to watch out for.
Yes. But
And
I've never seen
Could
anyone
this be
do it.
done in the regular lodges?
Yes.
Apparently, in UGLE, some lodges have actually been, when they were meeting to the rule of 6, they were actually opening the lodge, normal fashion, then call off, go to refreshment, strike up a Zoom meeting with all the other brethren, because obviously you can only have 6 in the lodge, going through any votes and propositions and whatever else, making a decision, recording it for their own benefit, minuting it, what the result of any ballots were. Then they would resume, call back on. The secretary, obviously, and Master and whoever the other 4 that were there would then say, well, this was what everybody said, pass the resolutions, close the lodge, and getting away with it that way.
And it worked well?
Very similar.
Did it work well?
It worked. We had to, in my English lodge, we had to do something. We had some important business to discuss, and that was the only way we could get round it.
Yeah.
So basically, we have a Zoom chat every other week anyway, which is just a bit of banter, much the same as what we do up here in Fife, which is, we do this every night up in Fife. But
Right.
the Temple Island one is probably about every fortnight or so. And to discuss anything, you can't mention any secrets or whatever else.
Or anything.
And it works well.
This is what we're talking about doing. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
very
it works absolutely well. And, you know, you've opened up a tiled lodge. You call off, so you go to refreshment.
Yeah.
And you can even actually take it into the dining hall and do the Zoom meeting. So anyone that actually manages to get into the Zoom meeting unofficially, all they see is a room with tables and chairs, which is not even laid out for dining. And then
An unofficial vote, and then when you go back to labor, make it official.
That's right, yeah.
It's very
Wow.
good. Yeah.
I like that idea. I'm going to pass it along to my lodge. Well, we still can't do degrees, which is the main
No,
complaint.
you can't, no.
So we're out of luck.
One thing is,
Although they can in England, very abridged ones, because they only need 5 to form the lodge.
We can do the first and the second in England, but we can't do a third.
That's
The
right.
first,
Yeah.
doing the first is a laugh. It's no way would we do it. It means the candidate's got to walk around wearing dark glasses. It's just not going to happen.
Right. Now, we can't do any degree work in Virginia right now. Well, as much as I joined the free willing discussion, this is great. I did want to get to the paper in case anyone wanted to leave after the paper, but I'll keep the Zoom meeting open as long as you all want to talk. But if there are no objections, I'm going to go ahead and get into the paper now. Get Joe quiet here. All righty. And I'm very grateful for those who might have come in late. Bob Simpson here in the red shirt. He is the author of this paper and a past master of Virginia Research Lodge. He and I recently started communicating, and I happened to pick his paper, so I wanted to make sure he was aware that he was able to attend. So he may well answer questions if you have any at the end. All right, so here we have the selected history of Widow's Sons Lodge number 60 by Worshipful Robert E. Simpson, given in Virginia Research Lodge number 1777 on March 27th, 1999. This has been a very difficult subject to prepare to share with you today. There is just so much that I would love to share with you, but time will not permit a thorough review of 200 years of the history of Widow's Sons Lodge number 60. So I've selected several important events and tidbits that I hope you will find interesting in this, the bicentennial year of Widow's Sons Lodge. I will tell you that a hardbound book has been written and is at the printer as I speak. Copies will be for sale. If you would like to reserve one, please let me know. The first record of organized Masonic activity in Albemarle County, Virginia, can be traced to the surrender of Lieutenant General John Burgoyne's 8,000-man British Army at Saratoga, New York, by the Continental Forces under the command of General Horatio Gates on October 12, 1777. You may be asking, what did that have to do with Freemasonry in Albemarle County, Virginia? Well, those prisoners captured at Saratoga were marched to Boston for confinement. In late October of 1778, because of the lack of quarters, about 4,400 of those prisoners were marched 650 miles south, arriving in Albemarle County in January of 1779. There were about 2,500 British and 1,900 Hessian soldiers, and they were imprisoned in what was called the barracks, located off of Barracks Road near Ivy Farms, west of Charlottesville. There were 9 English Freemasons included in these troops, complete with an Irish military warrant for Minden Lodge number 63. On January 4, 1780, 4 candidates were initiated. Among them were Johannes Heinrich Karl von Bernowitz, an ensign in the Prussian army. 3 more candidates were initiated on February 22, 1780. A table lodge was also held that same day. Albemarle County, Virginia was created in 1744, and in 1789, the legislature passed an act vesting 100 acres of land at a place on the Ravenna River called the Shallows that was later Milton. Milton was the head of navigation on the Ravenna River and became the shipping port of perhaps 3/4 of the county and a large section of the Valley of Virginia. The minutes of Widow Sons Lodge record many of the men who founded Milton and who operated businesses there. On October 17, 1799, a dispensation was issued by the Grand Lodge of Virginia authorizing the establishment of a lodge in the town of Milton by the name of Widow Sons Lodge, and appointing Edward Moore, Master, David Anderson, Senior Warden, and William Clarkson, Junior Warden. On December 10th, 1799, a charter was issued with 34 charter members, and the lodge was designated Widow Sons Lodge number 60. The first bylaws have some interesting tidbits. It shall be the duty of the worshipful master at every meeting, when time will admit, to give the brethren the benefit of a lecture in which degree the lodge may be setting. Every person who recommends a candidate shall deposit 1 guinea in the hands of the treasurer, or be answerable for the same to the lodge. Every member shall pay into the hands of the treasurer 1 shilling and 6 at each monthly meeting. The fee for initiation and passage shall be 1 4.4 and 1 2.2 for raising. Every brother, except in case of emergency, who may wish to be passed or raised, shall produce a certificate to the lodge, signed by one of the officers thereof, testifying his eligibility to seek advancement before it shall take place. On February 13th, 1800, the lodge purchased a floor cloth. You may be wondering, what is a floor cloth? Prior to the initiation of a candidate, one of the Tyler's duties in Widow Sons Lodge was to draw the lodge, or trace in chalk, crayon, or charcoal on the floor symbols associated with the degree to be conferred. We use slides today. Tradition tells us that the candidate was obliged to erase all pieces of the diagram at the conclusion of the degree. Just where is that floor cloth? It is a priceless piece of early American art, 1800 to 1820, and is presently in the possession of the Southern Museum of Decorated Art in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. They purchased it from a pawn shop in Richmond. We have no idea how it got there. The establishment of a recruiting station at Charlottesville, Virginia, following the outbreak of the War of 1812, added to the importance of the town. With a general suspension of trade at Milton, the majority of those of Widow Sons Lodge had moved from Milton to Charlottesville and had established residence. The lodge found it desirable to move to Charlottesville, but there was resistance. Charlottesville Lodge number 90, which had been established in 1812, did not want the competition and objected. It wasn't until December 13, 1815, that the Grand Lodge granted the move to Charlottesville. The first meeting of Widow Sons Lodge in Charlottesville was held on April 15, 1816, at the general mercantile business of Branham and Jones, located on Court Square. For whatever reason, Charlottesville Lodge number 90 ceased to meet and went extinct on March 31st, 1821. A major event in the life of the lodge occurred on October 6, 1817, when Widow Sons Lodge joined Charlottesville Lodge number 90 in laying the cornerstone of Central Lodge, which is now Pavilion 7 on the lawn, and in 1819 became the University of Virginia. An entire chapter in the lodge history is devoted to this event. Editor's note, I just published a paper detailing the laying of the cornerstone. If you haven't received that, you should be receiving that in another week or so. It has been the custom among the fraternity of free and accepted Masons from time immemorial to assemble for the purpose of laying the cornerstones of churches, public buildings, and monuments when requested to do so by those in authority. Widow Sons Lodge has frequently had the privilege of conducting or participating in this most interesting Masonic ceremony by laying the cornerstone of many of the prominent public and religious edifices in Charlottesville. References are already been made to the participation in the lodge in the laying of the cornerstone of Pavilion 7 at Central Lodge, University of Virginia. Among the other occasions on which Widow Sons Lodge officiated participating in the laying of a cornerstone in Masonic honors were, and there's a list of about 20 different churches and such that were cornerstones relayed, including the George W. Wright Memorial Pavilion, which was also documented in a paper recently. Pictures of many of these structures no longer in existence are included in the history book. The record of the cornerstone laying ceremony had led many to conclude that Thomas Jefferson was a Freemason. After all, he granted the lodge's permission and participated in the ceremony, but he was not, and this issue is discussed in detail in the book. A permanent home for the lodge was a search that lasted over 90 years. Widow Sons Lodge first permanent home was purchased in 1892 on the very corner in which the lodge meets today. This search for a permanent home was covered in detail in the book. The Morgan Affair and the anti-Masonic movement had a tremendous effect on Freemasonry. In the state of New York, there were 500 lodges in 1829, and 3 years later, there were 52. Widow Sons Lodge suffered a 3-year suspension of activity during the early years of the 1830s, but it was one of the few special communications that James A. Leach was initiated in the lodge. He shed a brilliant luster and revitalized the lodge. This distinguished Mason was recognized and was elected the first Grand Master from Widow Sons Lodge in 1854 and again in 1855. There have been many interesting and important men who have been associated with Widow Sons Lodge, and Benjamin Franklin Ficklin was no exception. He was the mastermind of the Pony Express, and in 1960, the centennial year of the Pony Express, he received his measure of credit. An interesting account of this man is included in the history. Thomas W. Gilmer was a member of Widow Sons Lodge. He was a member of Congress from Virginia, governor of Virginia, and secretary of the Navy. He was killed by an explosion of the USS Princeton. S.F. Leake was a member of Congress from Virginia and lieutenant governor of Virginia. John Walker was a senator from Virginia, and Francis Walker also served in Congress from Virginia. It is interesting to note the members of Widow Sons Lodge who served as missionaries: E.L. Woodford, China; Claude Marshall Lee, China; Dr. Thomas H. Daniel, Korea; John Mercer Blaine, China; and Christopher Scott Martin, Thailand. The Virginia legislature declared on April 17, 1861, that the Constitution of the United States of America was no longer binding on any citizen of this state. That assembly was presided over by Valentine Southall, a past master of Widow Sons Lodge. The 19th Virginia Regiment of the Confederate Army, composed of citizens of Charlottesville and Albemarle County, Virginia, survived 10 major battles and numerous skirmishes. The Battle of Gettysburg was to be both its high and low point. The 19th was under the command of General George Pickett, who was a member of Petersburg Lodge number 15. He was supported by 2 other Virginia Masons, General James L. Kemper, a member of Lindbank's Lodge number 126 in Madison, and General Lewis A. Armistead, a member of Alexandria Lodge number 22. There were more than 51,000 casualties at Gettysburg, one of which was Robert H. Poor from Widow Sons Lodge, who was killed on July 3rd, 1863. Another casualty of the war was Most Worshipful James A. Leitch. He was a physician who volunteered his services, contracted pneumonia at the Battle of Bull Run, and died June 5th, 1862. He is buried at Maplewood Cemetery with two other past Grand Masters of Widow Sons Lodge. There is an interesting story that has lived on about Lewis A. Armistead, a Confederate general, and Henry H. Bingham, a Union captain, and is portrayed in a beautiful monument erected at the Gettysburg battlefield by the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania. Don't miss it if you visit Gettysburg. In fact, I would recommend you plan a visit. There's a long list of Widow Sons Lodge members who served and distinguished themselves in the Confederate Army and are listed in the lodge history. Excuse me a moment. Sorry, I got talking to the background. All right. Widow Sons Lodge performed the last rites for many Confederate soldiers, most dying at the Charlottesville General Hospital. Widow Sons Lodge had burial lots at Maplewood Cemetery, which was used to bury its members who were not able to purchase lots. In January of 1863, the lodge purchased additional burial lots at Maplewood, which it still owns today. There is very little mention in the records of Widow Sons Lodge regarding the conflict between the North and South until September 1st, 1862, when it was reported that the enemy was defeated at Manassas and the army was marching on the capital. A resolution was adopted on November 1st, 1862 to exempt enlisted men serving in the army from payment of dues. On December 26, 1862, Widow Sons Lodge granted use of its hall to Lee Lodge number 209, which was attached to General Lee's division. On April 23, 1864, a large number of visitors were present in Widow Sons Lodge. These visitors were attached to General Longstreet's command on their way to reinforce General Lee. There is no mention in the recorded minutes of Widow Sons Lodge regarding the death of Most Worshipful William H. Harmon. He was a Confederate colonel and was Grand Master at the time of his death on March the 2nd, 1865. He was mortally wounded at the Battle of Waynesboro. Colonel Harmon had served as a gallant officer, not only in the Confederate Army, but also in the war with Mexico. There was also no mention of the surrender of General Lee's army at Appomattox on April 9th, 1865, or the death of President Lincoln on April 14th, 1865. There is a true story that I would like to share with you. General Sheridan's Union Army, under the command of General George A. Custer, arrived in Charlottesville on March the 3rd, 1865. They were met by the mayor, Mr. C.L. Fowler, and representatives from the university. They surrendered the town, and the protection of property was guaranteed by the Union general. General Merritt and General Custer were also present at the surrender. Some days after the surrender, the lodge was called to bury one of its members, Brother John L. Keller. Not wishing to incite an incident by any gathering that might be mistaken by federal troops, they sought the advice of the mayor. The mayor called on General Merritt, who was in active command of the city, and advised him of the death of Brother Keller, relating to him that Mr. Keller, who was a Mason and had distinguished himself as a Prussian sergeant at the Battle of Waterloo, requested permission from the Masons to bury him with Masonic rites. General Merritt sympathetically offered to have the Masons among his soldiers bury Mr. Keller with Masonic rites, and also to detail a guard of honor to fire a salute at his grave. When this courteous gesture was tactfully declined, General Merritt assured the mayor that the Keller family and the Masons would in no way be disturbed. The occupation of Charlottesville by federal troops continued for some time after the actual cessation of hostilities between the North and the South. The Brethren of Widow Sons Lodge accepted the situation and went about the task of rebuilding their hopes and their fortunes. The following letter to Widow Sons Lodge from Brother A.F. Higgs, the last commandant of the Charlottesville Military District following the Civil War, is an appropriate ending to this part of history of Widow Sons Lodge. It was dated March the 7th, 1868. Brother Wertenbacher served as a colonel in the Confederate Army, and when war was over, Brother Wertenbaker, returned to his job as postmaster. When he refused to take allegiance to the United States, he was removed. Most Worshipful Master C.C. Wertenbaker, Widow Sons Lodge, number 60, Virginia. Sir, As this will be perhaps the last time I shall meet the members of this lodge in this temple, I desire to thank them for the hearty and brotherly welcome extended to me on this advent here, for the continuing act of kindness shown to me by them since my residence in this pleasant city, and to assure them that time can never lessen the gratitude I feel towards the brothers of this lodge. It has been my pleasure to testify to Brother Masons of the North that the craft in this section asked neither the nativity or occupation of a brother, but when satisfied that he was worthy and well qualified, the right hand of fellowship was extended, and a stranger in a strange land, he found himself in the house of his friends, a welcome guest. In leaving Charlottesville, I take with me to my new station the consciousness of having had at all times done my duty as an officer, on every occasion endeavored to make the people of Albemarle understand in me that in me they had a friend that would never misrepresent them or lose an opportunity to do them a service, and that I've done all this, I think you believe, and in this belief I find my solace in parting with the prayer that the Supreme Architect of the universe will watch over and protect you as a lodge and individually as Masons. I am fraternally yours, A.F. Higgs, Lieutenant 16th U.S. Infantry. The 100th anniversary of Widow Sons Lodge celebrated on the 11th of December, 1899. On this historic occasion, a memorial tablet to Brother Frederick W. Hatch, the first rector of Christ Episcopal Church and the first chaplain of Widow Sons Lodge, was unveiled by the lodge. This brass tablet was located in the sanctuary just the main entrance of Christ Episcopal Church in Charlottesville and reads as follows: 1799, 1899. With devoted thanksgiving to Almighty God, Widow Sons Lodge number 60, AF and AM, hath on its 100th anniversary, December 10th, 1899, erected this tablet to the memory of Reverend Frederick W. Hatch, D.D., its first chaplain and the first rector of this church. What Widow Sons Lodge owes to Brother Hatch is hard to determine now. That it owed much, tradition bears witness. Our brethren in those days generally mingled a great deal of fun with work. Pictures of toddy appear as rather extraordinary expenditures in the steward's book, and the lodge, which today forbids the use of intoxicants at its meetings, would not recognize itself in refreshment then. Those days, even the parson took his glass and felt none the worse for it. Also on those days, the lodge sometimes met on Sunday. Brother Hatch broke this up, not by thundering the terrors of the law at the brethren, but by going to lodge and inviting it at its close to go to the courthouse to hear him preach. A few sermons on Sabbath breaking, and Widow Sons Lodge never again met on Sunday, except to perform the sad rites over a dead brother. The 100th anniversary celebration ended with a quotation from Most Worshipful R.T.W. Duke, a past master of Widow Sons Lodge, which I believe will profit the Masons who hear them today. No event in the history of this lodge in all its 100 years is, to my mind, a moment like this. We, a lodge of free and accepted Masons, celebrate our 100th anniversary in a manner most befitting the occasion, not with mere festival and rejoicing, but with devout thank, godly humility, perpetuating the memory of a man of God who was our brother, our first pastor of this lodge, and the first pastor of this church. And now a new century dawns for us. May it be a century of great usefulness, of consecration to the service of God, and the rigid observance of the tenets of Freemasonry. May the world be better because we have been. May our brethren 100 years hence meet here again to celebrate a new century and see this tablet and remember the man of God whose name it perpetuates, and bear witness to the fact that, while life is short and the century soon gone, the righteous shall be in everlasting remembrance. In the 18th century, when Masonry was still in its infancy, Virginia was a wild and unsettled place. It is difficult for us today to imagine the thoughts and feelings of an 18th century Mason stepping into the bitter cold of a winter night after a lodge meeting to preserve his travel homeward. For him, a trip of several miles at night after a lodge meeting was a major undertaking, where even that task of finding one's way was formidable. For this reason, many of those early lodges in Virginia adopted the custom of holding their meetings during the week of the full moon. Hence, these lodges became referred to as moon lodges. The moon provided a beacon that guided our brethren of yesterday homeward along the dirt roads and beaten pathways of early Albemarle County, Virginia. In 1809, 102 of the 275 lodges in Virginia were moon lodges. Moon lodges are indeed an old English tradition that have survived in the United States. The Moon Lodge is slowly but surely disappearing from the American Masonic scene. 60 years ago, there were more than 3,000 Moon Lodges in the United States. Now there are less than 500. A number of Grand Lodges have legislated Moon Lodges out of existence, insisting that all lodges must meet on definite dates. As with so many customs of old, the advent of modern society and its technology has slowly driven the Moon Lodge to the status of a quaint anachronism. In 1899, all the lodges in the Charlottesville and Albemarle County area were Moon Lodges. The only one left is Murray Lodge, number 175 at Fredericks Hall. The invention of the automobile and street lighting, together with the general decline of agriculture, made the setting of lodge meetings by the phases of the moon, rather than on a fixed day, a nuisance without purpose. There are only 5 moon lodges remaining in Virginia. Hopefully a few will not surrender this old custom. They serve as a reminder to modern Masons traveling home by the light of the moon that they are, in essence, following the footsteps of their brethren of yesteryear, for whom the moon was a real as well as a symbolic light. For over 150 years, Widow Sons Lodge met on and before the full moon, and in 1962, the lodge changed its stated communication from a day on or before the full moon to the third Monday in each month. This ended a tradition that had its origins in the 18th century, when the brethren used the light of the full moon to travel back and forth to lodge meetings. My brothers, I'm just over halfway through, and it's been 20 minutes. I'm happy to continue, but this is a rather long paper, and I don't know if you all can. Normally, you wrap up a paper within 15 to 20 minutes, so at your pleasure, I can go in, or we can break off and discuss something. Most of these are vignettes. I mean, it's different things put together. There's not a long story that I'm leaving the end off of, but I leave it to y'all. What say you?
Please keep going.
I'll keep going. Everyone okay with me? Keep going. I'm happy, and I'll edit this out when I
Go.
put it on YouTube. All right, but I'm happy to read it to you, but but I didn't realize when I started reading just how long it is when it's read out. So if y'all like it, I'll be happy to keep going.
Go for it.
All right. For many years, the lodge elapses twice a year, June 24th and December 27th. In the early years, an entered apprentice was a member of the lodge, and all business was conducted in the first degree. This was changed in 1850. Widow Sons Lodge even had quarterly, semi-annual, and annual members. But to be one, you had to reside 6 miles or more from the lodge, or be one whose age and bodily infirmity prevented his regular attendance. In years gone by, when a brother was sick and it became necessary to sit up with him, it was the duty of the secretary to give notice to the members in rotation as they stood on the roll, calling out 2 for each night. Any member refusing or neglecting to perform this service when required was fined $1. If you were a physician or over the age of 50, you were exempt. The tragic and untimely assassination of Brother William McKinley on September 1901 cast a shadow of mourning over the entire nation. Less than a week following his death, Widow Sons Lodge, in special communication, held a memorial service lamenting the loss to the craft and to the country and eulogizing the late president and brother. The apron used by President McKinley at the Masonic ceremonies commemorating the 100th anniversary of the death of George Washington at Mount Vernon, December 14, 1899, was presented to Widow Sons Lodge by worshipful William R. Duke, to whom it had presented by his brother, R.T.W. Duke, Jr., who was then Grand Master Masons in Virginia and presided at the ceremonies. The apron had been purchased by a past Grand Master Woodbury of Colorado and given to Grand Master R.T.W. Duke, Jr. to be given to the president. It was handed to Brother McKinley on the electric car while he was en route to Mount Vernon and placed by him in his overcoat pocket. He remarked that he did not suppose it should be worn until the procession was formed at Mount Vernon. In the hurry and excitement of an impromptu reception held before the procession formed, the president forgot to put the apron on. and after the ceremonies were over, finding it in his pocket, handed it to Grandmaster Duke with an expression of the oversight and saying he will be pleased for him to accept it. Grandmaster Duke presented it the same day to his brother, who presented it to Widow Son's Lodge. The apron is of plain white lambskin and is still in a fine state of preservation. Though not actually worn at the centennial exercises, one can still say that it was used by the president on that historic occasion. After the fall of Fort Sumter, Brother McKinley enlisted in the 23rd Ohio Volunteer Infantry. He was hospitalized in Virginia for injuries received in battle, and he was greatly impressed with the friendliness of a Union surgeon toward Confederate wounded. He later discovered the men were Masons. He marveled at the bonds which persisted through the war and made haste to join the Masonic Lodge. A Confederate worshipful master raised Brother McKinley in Hiram Lodge number 21, Winchester, Virginia, on May the 3rd, 1865. He was given a demit so that he could take his membership back to Ohio, where he affiliated with Canton Lodge number 60. He became a charter member of Eagle Lodge number 43, later to be renamed William McKinley Lodge. On September 6, 1901, while welcoming citizens at the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo, New York, Brother McKinley was mortally wounded by a terrorist and died on September 14th. Brother McKinley's last words summed up the philosophy he lived. It is God's way. His will, not ours, be done. To perpetuate the memory of 4 members of Widow Son's Lodge who served as Grand Master Masons in Virginia, and to evidence the veneration and high esteem in which these distinguished brethren were held, the Lodge presented to the Grand Lodge of Virginia at its annual communication in February 1948 the portraits of Grand Masters James A. Leitch, Peyton S. Coles, R.T.W. Duke Jr., and James B. Wood. As was observed by one who was in attendance in this communication, the session at which the portraits were presented might well have been designated Charlottesville Night at the Grand Lodge. For in thus honoring 4 of its members, also eminent citizens of the Charlottesville community, the Lodge had selected to make the presentation on its behalf 4 members of the fraternity prominent in the Charlottesville area. The portrait of Most Worshipful James A. Leitch was presented by Worshipful L.W. Wood. Brother Leitch was elected Grand Master of Masons in Virginia in 1854 and again in 1855, the first member of Widow Son's Lodge to attain this honored position. Dr. Leitch died in the service of his native state, having contracted pneumonia at the Battle of Bull Run. He was buried in Maplewood Cemetery in Charlottesville, and in his grave is a beautiful monument erected and inscribed by the Masons of Virginia. The portrait of Most Worshipful Peyton S. Coles was presented by Brother Lemuel F. Smith. Widow Son's Lodge was for the second time honored in having one of its members elevated to the office of Grand Master of Masons in Virginia. Most Worshipful Peyton S. Coles served the craft as Grand Master in 1880 and again in 1881. This distinguished Mason also presided in the highest office of the Grand Royal Arch Chapter and in the highest office of the Grand Commandery of Knights Templar. In 1 year, 1881, Peyton S. Coles filled the offices of Grand Master, Grand High Priest, and Grand Commander, an honor no other Mason in the Commonwealth of Virginia can claim. During Brother Cole's second term as Grand Master, Widow Son's Lodge, in the most interesting ceremony, presented to its distinguished member a silver trowel for his use in laying the cornerstone of the Yorktown Monument in 1881. Following his tenure as Grand Master, Brother Coles was, in 1883, appointed Grand Lecturer, a position he held until his death in 1887. Worshipful John S. Battle of Charlottesville Lodge number 55 and former Governor of Virginia presented the portrait of Most Worshipful R.T.W. Duke Jr. In recognition of his outstanding ability and distinguished service to the Masonic fraternity, R.T.W. Duke Jr., a past master of Widow Son's Lodge, was elected to serve as Grand Master of Masons in Virginia in 1898 and for a second term in 1899. He was the third member of Widow Son's Lodge called upon to preside over the Grand Lodge of Virginia. At the conclusion of his distinguished career as an able lawyer, accomplished scholar, cultured gentleman, matchless orator, and devoted Mason, he was laid to rest in Maplewood Cemetery near the grave of his predecessor, Past Grand Master James A. Leach. Right Worshipful S.F. Ham, a businessman, presented the portrait of Most Worshipful James B. Wood. Again, in 1915, Widow Sons Lodge was privileged in having one of its members elected to preside as Grand Master Masons of Virginia. Most Worshipful Wood was the fourth member of the lodge to sustain this distinguished position. Evidences have devoted an entire service to the fraternity in general, and Widow Sons Lodge in particular, over a period of more than half a century, fill the minutes and are remembered in the hearts of those who knew him. Brother Wood was also laid to rest among his Masonic brethren in Maplewood Cemetery. Thus, in Maplewood Cemetery, within a few paces of each other, are the graves of three past Grand Masters of Masons in Virginia, all of whom were eminent and revered Masons, members of Widow Sons Lodge. These portraits are displayed in the Grand Lodge Museum with those of other past Grand Masters. A photographic reproduction of each portrait was made and adorns the walls of Widow Sons Lodge. A more detailed biography of each of these distinguished Masons is included in the history book with the other past masters. As part of our bicentennial celebration, it is planned to replace a wreath at the graves of these brothers. The name of another past Grand Master of Masons in Virginia was associated with Widow Sons Lodge. In 1885 and again in 1886, the Grand Lodge of Virginia was presided over by Most Worshipful Francis H. Hill. This distinguished Mason and lawyer from Madison, while not a member of our lodge at that time, had first seen Masonic light in Widow Sons Lodge during 1865. Membership is of interest to most keepers of statistics. Historic Masonic membership trends somewhat follow the major conditions that existed, such as the Morgan Affair, wars, depressions, and recently the general decline of all mainline churches and fraternal organizations. The time of the Morgan Affair was a particularly unhappy period in the history of Freemasonry in America, when a violent campaign against Freemasonry was launched in many of the states. It arose out of the death of William Morgan. Mr. Morgan, together with a newspaper man named David Miller, published an expose of Freemasonry. He was subsequently reported to have been murdered, and this led to the anti-Masonic campaign launched by some irresponsible men for political purpose and based on false accusations that a group of Freemasons had conspired to kill Morgan for his exposure of Masonic secrets. Freemasons were personally attacked in many states, and scores of lodges were closed between 1829 and 1838. It was 65 years later, 1864, before Widow Sons Lodge had 100 members. 40 years later, the membership was over 200. And in 14 years later, the membership had grown to 300. The membership grew ever slowly during the first 50 years, and through the strong leadership of influence of Most Worshipful Leitch, the membership took an upward turn. The influx of new members pushed the membership over 100 during the Civil War, and membership remained steady over the next 30 years. The Depression caused the membership to decline. During and after World War II, membership resumed the rapid growth experienced in the early years of the 20th century. The membership reached its peak in 1862 at 384. And as of this paper, they had 366 members. Now, it is interesting. In November 1966, representatives of the 8 Widow Sons Lodges in the United States met in Washington, D.C. to form an association of Widow Sons Lodges. The 8 lodges, all east of the Mississippi River, all as follows. Widow Sons number 60 in Charlottesville, Widow Sons 66 in Branford, Connecticut, number 75 in Camden, North Carolina, number 150 in Emporia, Virginia, number 335 in Livingston, New York, number 519 in Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina, number 571 in Paulding, Ohio, and number 610 in Sydney, Arkansas. Widow Sons Lodge number 60, represented by Worshipful Burris and Worshipful Manson, became charter members of the association and invited the lodge to meet in Charlottesville during the fall of 1968. This association has offered the brethren in these lodges a tremendous opportunity to meet and enjoy fellowship every 2 years. The host lodge for the 1998 biennial meeting was Widow Sons Lodge number 519 in Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina. There has been a long relationship between the Charlottesville Masons and the Jewish community, and one chapter of the lodge history is devoted to our Jewish brethren. The first Jew to arrive in Albemarle County was named Isaac. He was born in Frankfurt, Germany about 1760, owned a number of lots in Charlottesville, and made his living as a merchant. He was also a Freemason. We do not know what lodge he was made a Mason, but we know he affiliated with Door to Virtue number 44 in Charlottesville in 1795. He later became a member of Widow Sons Lodge. He died in 1837, was buried in Meshalom Cemetery in Richmond. David Isaac traded all kinds of goods from his Main Street shop, the current site of the Williams Corner Bookstore. He earned a footnote in the history of the University of Virginia by selling Thomas Jefferson's overseer a ball of twine that was used to lay out the first of the university buildings, Pavilion number 7, the cornerstone of which was laid by Widow Sons Lodge. And they list a significant number of Jews migrating to America and a number that were members of Widow Sons Lodge. Brother William Reinhold is the 134th Master Mason to serve as worshipful master of Widow Sons Lodge in 1899. James A. Leach, a physician, served 8 years. Charles W. Carter, a physician, served 8 years. William Wharton Baker, a lawyer and first librarian at the university, served 6 years. Valentine W. Southall, a lawyer, served 6 years. John H. Craven, a farmer, served 5 years. And Josiah Bigelow, who advanced to become Deputy Grand Master, served 4 years. So all of those men served multiple years as worshipful master of this lodge. You may find it interesting to know that 17 worshipful masters were businessmen, 13 were lawyers, 7 were merchants, 7 were physicians, 5 were farmers, 4 were engineers, 5 were salesmen, and 3 were dentists. Plans have been completed for the lodge's bicentennial celebration. Again, this was in 1999. And I am personally excited about the prospects with this celebration holds for this lodge and its members. And then he thanks you for your attention and will be delighted to answer any questions. Any questions for Brother Simpson? Please unmute.
You must be out of breath.
I'm sorry I drank all my water too fast.
I wondered when you mentioned you were going to read this or wanted me to read it. I should have told you, I knew it was 19 pages and it might be a tad bit long, but
yeah, it did seem to like, well, it was similar to another one I'd read, which was about half an hour, so I thought it'd be okay, but I think I went about 40 minutes with that. So yeah, I need to pick a shorter one and break it up into pieces or something next time. But a lot of really good information. It was very interesting. It was, I realized you were pulling from, there was a book that was published and you were just pulling selected portions out of the book or out of the history and putting together the book, or?
yeah, the book that was published in 1999 was the first edition.
Mm-hmm.
Second edition ran out of print and was printed again in 2000, I don't know, maybe 14. I don't know. Both copies are in the Grand Lodge Library.
It was very, I mean, I saw it as like, well, I mean, because it was a history, obviously this happened here and then this happened here. And so it wasn't like one continuous story, but it was highlights throughout the history of the lodge. The bit about McKinley was really interesting. I love the bit about the apron where someone handed him an apron to wear and then he forgot to put it on. So technically he used it. I like that part.
Could I ask a question? Widow's Sons, we know as Masonic riders, motorcycle lodges.
Oh.
Is there any connection to that Widow's Sons lodge?
It's interesting that when the charter was applied for, when you go back and look at the Grand Lodge proceedings, it's listed as widow's son, or whenever the charter was applied for. And then when it was given, it was widow's son's lodge, and that was the lodge, the way it was used. It's interesting, most of our lodges in Virginia here wear aprons with blue colors, but back then, everything was green. I think, if I recall correctly, over in Scotland, a lot of the lodges, I have an apron, past master's apron from the lodge over there, and it's green. Of course, it has the clan tartan on the apron as well, but the green was used for probably 50 years before it was changed to blue.
Yeah, well, green aprons, pure green aprons, tend to be Province and Grand Lodge. But each lodge in Scotland has its own apron anyway,
Oh, wow.
and that can be any colour under the sun, to be honest with you. Great many of them with a tartan edging.
Yeah.
One thing I'd like to say about the Widow Sons motorcycle group that you're talking about, while they are very active here in Virginia, of course, for the age of the lodge, it was more based, the name Widow Son was more based on Masonic lore.
Yeah, I gathered that.
We do have the clubs very active in Virginia, and I'm sure they're very active where you are as well. You brought it up, but yeah, but the thing is it's based off the same lore, but that's all it is really. It's Italian, it's Masonic, and that's it.
No, I just wondered if the Motorcycle Association had actually derived itself from.
I don't believe so.
No, it came out of Virginia. Outside of Virginia.
No.
Yeah. What's interesting is we have now. This is the paper today was on Widow Sons Lodge number 60. And I'll spell this out: Widow apostrophe S, Sons apostrophe Lodge number 60. That's based out of Charlottesville. In Virginia, there is also a Widow's Son, Widow apostrophe S, SON, Lodge number 50 in Emporia, Virginia. Not exactly the same name, but very close.
Very close, yeah.
I think it's 150. Yeah.
I said one. Did I say 150?
I think you said 50.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, 150 in Emporia. Sorry, I'm out of breath. Sorry. As I mentioned earlier, and I don't know how many of you, I assume, is everyone here a member of our Facebook group for Research Lodge? Anyone not a member?
No, I'm not.
I'm not a member.
Yeah, well, you should be.
I can get Brian to sort me out with that one.
Okay. Well, what I did this year, because I've been doing the research papers, and I started in January of last year, and my goal is to send one a week and get through all 50 years of our lodge. But what, I'm sorry, I got to mute a few of y'all here. Feel free to unmute if you want to say something, but what started in January of 2019, sending out the papers, and I don't think I'd sent more than 30 over the course of the year because I just fell off some weeks. So I made a concerted effort in January of this year, and I tried to bring in a lot more people to sign up, and I made an effort to do it every week. But also, I think it was like the day before, it was like New Year's Eve, I'm thinking, I want to do something different. And I noticed that there were almost 300 lodges in Virginia, and it struck me, it's like, well, there's 300 lodges, 365 days in the year. What if I could cover every lodge one a day for a whole year? So I committed myself and said, starting with Norfolk number 1 on January 1st, I walked through all of the lodges in Virginia, and then I looked up, I have some records on the Research Lodge website, basically the lodge location and number. The Grand Lodge of Virginia has a page for each lodge. There's like 3 or 4 pages that they have their history if they bother to submit it. And then the lodge sometimes have websites, sometimes have Facebook pages. So every day I'd read what the Grand Lodge has and read what the website or Facebook, if they have one that has their history. And I walk through every single lodge over the course of the year and encourage the brothers, go visit their Facebook page, go visit their website, and cataloged all 292 lodges in Virginia, ending in in November. I think it ended up first part of November I finished. But it was really interesting to me to see the huge variety just in Virginia, all of these different lodges, all the interesting origins. I was able to find one interesting fact about each one that I put in the post. And the challenge for me was I like the colored backgrounds. You can only type so many letters when you have a colored post. So I would sometimes, I ended up shortening district. And there are some times when I just put 40, I started putting the district in parentheses and people say, what's that number? So I had to say like District 44. Some of them I dropped the word lodge away. So it'd be widow's son 60 in, Charlottesville. And there are some, like if the lodge name was the name of the city, I'd leave that out. I played all kinds of tricks to get it to fit. But there are days when I'm sitting there and I type it all out and it turns back to white. I'm like, oh, crap. So I back out to it's my pretty color again. Okay, let me just take out this word and shortened it. But I managed to get it to fit. There was one lodge, I think it was Yorktown, had like 8 different charters for the same lodge, all these different numbers. And I managed to fit it in there, all of the numbers anyway. But that was a lot of fun for me. And I tried to put one interesting fact in the post, in the initial, something about them. And then, of course, all of the comments I could go at great length and had most of their history in there. But it was a challenge for some where they didn't bother to submit, because every secretary was asked to submit a history to the Grand Lodge. Most of those histories are at least 10 years old. They don't bother to, they haven't gone back around and said, give us an update. But some lodges are absolutely nothing in the Grand Lodge other than when they were chartered and where they are. And I'm like struggling to find something to say about each one. That was a fun fact in the first post. Yeah.
Just to let you know, also as part of the Committee on History, the Grand Lodge's Committee on History, we're supposed to approve the sketches of the history for each lodge. That's going to be put on the website as well.
Oh, good.
We do try to encourage lodges to put their history on there so that we can get it posted as well. So it is an ongoing thing, and it is being attended to. It's just finding someone in the lodge to actually do the work.
Yes.
You can't do it all yourself.
Right. Well, you're welcome to whatever I have. That's all under Lodge of the Day. So you're welcome to go to our group and
I appreciate
take anything from there you want.
I will let you know that Bob has been very helpful in all his work that he's done. We do tap into that quite a bit too. So,
Bob, I'm sorry, Bob who? Bob Simpson? Oh, okay. Oh, good. Very good. Okay.
That's some very good work for Grand Lodge.
Excellent.
Mostly with the past Grand Masters.
Right. Well, I have to say it's a funny thing because like I'm really, there was one brother a couple of papers back where he remarked that that research lodge members are the cream of the crop in masonry. That we take it. What I put it is we take it more seriously. We want to get more. We don't want to just go to a regular lodge meeting and attend. We want to do more. I've always been interested in research. I think I was probably like senior deacon or junior warden in lodge. So I'd only been a Mason like 5 some years when I joined Virginia Research Lodge. And that's always had an appeal to me to dig into it and learn more. I honestly get more out of digging up this research and sharing with everybody than you all get from reading it. I know everyone, I hear from people all the time. I really appreciate it. I love all you're doing. But really, selfishly, I get a lot out of it just digging it up myself. Because, I pick and choose what gets put out there, but I get to read all of this stuff and all these different sources and just pushing myself to do this challenge. It's like having to find something interesting to say about every lodge that's not just like, hey, they were chartered in Norfolk, blah, blah, blah. Go ahead, Brother Brian. Go ahead.
Earlier, you were talking about Lee Lodge. Is that the same Lee Lodge that's around now?
Lee Lodge?
Lee Lodge 209, it started as a military lodge chartered by the Grand Lodge of Virginia with the Confederate forces. It is currently a chartered craft lodge in Waynesboro. In fact, I'm a member of that as well.
So you probably know Mark Phillips. You probably know Mark Phillips then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a very good brother, very knowledgeable too.
Yeah, he's one of our group with the ESSA group.
Yeah, Lee Lodge was named after General Lee. In fact, they sought his willingness to allow them to use his name, and they have the correspondence on all that. Which in some ways has come under scrutiny by others, particularly in these times, which is unfortunate.
Yes.
What's interesting is I was under the impression, just not thinking of buildings and airports and whatever, that Masonic lodges normally aren't named after people who are still alive, but turns out a whole bunch were. There's no restriction. You don't have to be dead to get a lodge after you. And a number of our lodges were named after famous Masons, the current Grandmaster sometimes, past Grandmasters, or just famous people in the area. Like one fell out was like the western part of the state. For some reason, I'm just fascinated by the western corner there of Virginia that's all the way to Kentucky and Tennessee, that's west of West Virginia, actually. And all the little lodges out there, and most of them are so old. And it's like one lodge was named after some fella, and I had to go dig because the lodge, again, didn't put much on the website as to who they were named after. There are times when I had trouble figuring out, where did this name come from? Because sometimes it's the city or a river or a local area, and I can easily deduce, oh, well, that's named for this here, because this city was called this once. But one was named after this guy. Best I could tell, he was like he was like a soldier, a colonel or something, and it was his name, but he was known in that area, but he wasn't a Mason that I could tell. But apparently local history, he was a legend, so they chose the name of the lodge after him. So it's always fun trying to figure out just where these names come from, how they came up with that name for, why would this lodge be named after, who this guy, if he's not even a Mason.
Well, that's like Treadwell Lodge 213. We're named after someone we don't really know if he was a Mason or not. There have been, before that, there were 3 other lodges in Clark County,
Okay.
but, and so now Treadwell, and that is interesting. The only thing we can tell is that he was a prominent individual in the community.
Right. There were several of those I came across. Yep.
Thank you, Christopher, for a very interesting talk.
Yes.
Great to be with you guys. But I've got to go and start sorting out some dinner.
So what time is it right when
It's a 4:45 in the evening.
Okay. So this time works well for you all then, because it's early evening for y'all. It's not too early in the morning for us. We normally meet
3 o'clock in the afternoon. It started.
Okay.
We do have some that start at 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock.
Right.
Daily one in 5 starts at 8:30 every night of the week.
Oh wow. So there's plenty out there.
And then Thursdays we invade Cornwall.
Yes, and you're very welcome. Usually,
Well,
quite often take it over, but
that's fine. Don't worry about it.
but no, it's great, especially in the current situation. No Masonic meetings, can't go anywhere because of restrictions. So you're stuck indoors all day anyway. There's only so much housework you can do.
well, no, I don't know. My wife found plenty of things for me to work on in and around my job. It's like, well, you're home. You can paint this. You can paint that.
Oh, I don't have that luxury anymore, unfortunately. But anyway, thanks again, brother.
Thank you all for coming. It's great to have this. And yes, I hope to keep having these on Saturday mornings. That seems to work well, and I appreciate everyone coming out. If anybody has anything else to say, we're going to go ahead and call it.
Be healthy and safe.
Yes. Thanks again to everyone for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it a lot.
Thank you.
Yes, Brian. Hopefully see you this evening.
Yeah, see you later, Jim. See you
Enjoyed
later,
it.
Parliament. And of course,
See you,
any
bud.
other gentlemen want to join us, so I can, the link's in the chat,
Yeah.
the ESSA chat.
Yes, I'm gonna be going through that now. After all
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, Jim, the meeting Jim was talking about, is the details are in there as well. So by all means, pop along to that.
Yeah.